Hey guys, it's Faye from SolarFlow and I am back with a new video. Today's topic is a deep dive behind the veil energy read on MK Ultra mind control. What does that have to do with Marilyn Monroe and us, the general population as well, and where can we see examples of it in popular culture and movies? So if this sounds good, please stick around, and if not, I'll catch you at another video. So before we get into the channeled information, if anyone is unclear what this concept of MK Ultra mind control is, the CIA had actually disclosed in the 1970s that they had been running mind control operations on the general population. What's also interesting about that is that they never said that they had stopped doing it. So we can look at that as a reveal because they said they had and they never said they stopped. So we're going to run with that and we're going to say that they're still doing it to this day. And how is this mind control actually meted out against the general population? For that, I'm actually going to direct you, and I'll link it down below. There's a video I had done on spells and incantations. That has part to do with this. I will touch upon the part that has to do with this, so I'm not leaving you guys hanging. But if you want to get a better built out idea, I definitely recommend seeing that video as a whole. But one way in which you can do mind control is where there is one repetitive message being projected out into the general population through various means, such as news, movies, newspapers, and anything that is seeded into popular culture. And this has been going on. Now, we know it's been going on because, again, the CIA actually admitted in the 1970s that they had been doing it. Where was the origin point of it? And that was with Marilyn Monroe. But it's not just the origin point, and I'm going to explain why. And I've also linked the video on Marilyn Monroe down below if you haven't seen it and you want to go back and watch it. But basically, Marilyn was their test case of the first Hollywood starlet that mind control was actually successfully implemented on. And she was the perfect person to do it on because she was an orphan and she was so desperate for love and acceptance and not to end up in a mental institution like her mom had, that her fear was the perfect launch point in which to run mind control. And here's why. Fear is the absolute lowest, heaviest, densest vibration that there is on Earth, on a global level, on a global scale. And when I had looked into this, what was actually shown to me is, imagine, if you will, there's a big wide open plot of land. It's like virgin land. And there's a lot of greenery, there's a lot of grass, there's a lot of these beautiful trees that are growing. Maybe there's even some boulders and some rocks, but it's truly virgin land. Developers have not had the ability to touch it yet. So think of the mind in the most undisturbed, pure, virgin state would be like that plot of land. But if developers, real estate developers, wanted to come in, what would they have to do to the land? So what they would first do is they would have to bring in the heavy machinery. I don't know what they're called, but they would bring in that scooper thing, and the scooper thing would start to pull up the land, and then they would move the pulled up soil from one location to another. And they would have to do that to a wide open space. If there were some trees that were in the way, they were going to have to cut down the trees as well. Right? You can't just pour concrete into this virgin land. You can't just pour concrete onto trees. So they're pulling up anything that is of a natural nature, a natural basis from the land so that they can then bring in the artificial tools that they're going to be needing to pour the concrete, to create the foundation, to then bring all the material in to build up a house or a building or whatever it is that they're building there. And then the last thing that they do, the dressings, if you will, is now that they have completely come in and destroyed the natural landscape, then they will bring in a landscape artist that is going to recreate some sense of nature in that area. And that is very much the way that, excuse me, MK Ultra mind control works. The mind is the virgin plot of land, but they can't come in and then just bypass the natural thoughts that a person has. That would be akin to pouring concrete onto the trees and pouring concrete onto the land and not moving everything out of the way. So what is the tool that they use to clear the mind, so to say? And that is fear. And this was discovered in their successful implantation of this MK Ultra mind control onto Marilyn Monroe. They came to understand through their experimenting on her that it was fear that was the tool, the key, if you will, to unlock the door into accessing somebody's mind. And where have we seen this play out? Very, very recently. Go back just a few years ago to 2020. And what were all of the news stations doing? They had the tickers running on all of their programming, but they had it, and it was keeping track of all of the people that had died of C19. So that's a really, really great way to implement fear, by tracking the death count and to, again, in accordance with all of the news doing the same thing, where they're all talking about it, where they're all pumping the fear into the world, is a great way to bypass other thoughts that a person would try to have at that time. And it's a good way of keeping people hooked to the TV. The TV and the news and the information becomes like their fix. It becomes their hit, that they become reliant on it. And that is also the fact that is further evidence of the fact that their mind has actually been hijacked, if you will, that they are keeping their attention on the news and on the news only. Now, to my notes I go. So again, fear is the lowest vibration that can play out on the world stage, on the general public at once. And to keep anyone watching the news is to keep them in a very, very low, dense vibration. And what was also actually shown to me is, I don't know how many years ago it is. I don't know if this happened to anybody else, but since like 2020, all the years just kind of blend into one another. So, I mean, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be, I have no reference point anymore. But, so however many years ago this was, there was a big influx of a certain kind of TV programming that came out, which was all of these CSI and the crime TV shows. Interesting, one could say. So it wasn't like just one came out and that was it. It was CSI, and then there was this knockoff and that knockoff and this show and that show. And one could say, strictly in the three-dimensional, that proof of concept. Okay, so the TV developers realized, hey, this is a popular topic that people are interested in. Let's create more of these kind of shows because proof of concept, we know that this works. If only we only lived in the three-dimensional. Now, the real true intent and purpose behind that was the same thing, to inundate people's senses, to inundate people's attention with this kind of content. What is CSI kind of TV shows? Crime. So it was done very intentionally with this idea of reinforcing the world is not safe, the world is crime-ridden. What was the very, very first origin point of that, though, was, what was the name of that show? It was actually a law show, and it had the, when it would kind of like toggle back from scenes, it would go like, dun dun, right? I forget the name of everything. But it was that first TV show, because what they actually started to do was they were plucking headlines from the news, and they were doing a fictitious retelling of it. And it's chilling if you think about it. We're not actually working off of the imagination and creating these fictitious crimes, but we're actually taking things, real things that have happened in the world to real people, real crimes, and we are retelling it on TV. It's chilling. It's actually chilling. When we understand that the intentionality behind it was to frame the world as this unsafe environment where crimes happen to innocent people, for the most part, for no apparent reason. Okay. So the influx of the crime TV shows was also this framing the world, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it is framing the world to be a certain kind of a way onto the world stage. Understand that. That's the first part of it, where there is a repetitive message that is doled out, not just on one network and on one show, but on multiple networks, on multiple shows. It is almost like, okay, I don't want to watch this, so I'm going to just change the channel. You're changing the channel and you're going to find it on another network, on a different station. It's the same kind of idea. It's just kind of been refreshed and retold in a different way. And that is, again, to drive this message home. So what was also shown to me is that action movies and any movie that has violence was done with the same intention. And if you think about it, go back to the days of Bruce Lee. The movies were not without action, but there was a lack of this gratuitous violence. There was a lack of this proliferation of showing violence, physical aggression, death, murder, blood, explosions. And you can also see this not just with the violent movies, the action movies that had a lot of violence. Look at also the games. Look at the games that the teenagers are playing and how they too have become more and more violent and are more and more action-oriented. That is also done by design for the same reason. It is to normalize something that is actually not normal. Because in normal life, people don't go around beating other people up for no reason. Even the fact that it's like I'm saying that, it seems kind of like ridiculous. But that is actually what is being pumped out into youths. And it is to normalize something that is not normal, okay? Now, what was also shown to me is that, so two things. First of all, porn, which I've spoken about in some of my other videos, but porn plays a role in this as well, and here's why. So porn, first of all, is very, very low energy. It's very, very dense. And as I've seen in some of the AMAs, when somebody is watching porn, what would once do it for them, they almost become desensitized to it. Just like, violence, just like movies. Here, look at it this way. If we would have gone from like the Bruce Lee era of movies, where yes, people were, let's say, getting beat up, it was more artistically done, and it didn't show this extreme violence. If we would have gone from that to the movies we have now, it would have been too overwhelming for people. So it had to be a slow influx of the movies becoming more and more violent and more action-oriented to where now people can observe films where people are being blown up and where there's gore and there's blood and there's everything all over the place. It is very much the same way with somebody that is engaging in porn. If they're watching something, the enjoyment that they derive from it will start to decay over time. And they will start to watch, first of all, more and more of it. They will consume more and more of it, but they will need to watch different fringe things to get the same kind of enjoyment that they had watched early on. So the consumption of pornography has also become more corrupted and more chaotic. So it's where, first of all, there's a lot of things on there that are like really, really fringe. Like, so for example, you can find things that are like violence, not just like beyond BDSM, like real violence. Violent, abusive behaviors meted out towards women. And that's, again, to frame the world in such a way. It's to normalize something that is actually not normal. But what are they also trying to normalize through it? There is, sorry guys, it's gross, but like mother and daughters having sex with the daughter's boyfriend. So what are they trying to normalize? Pedophilia. And incest. So understand that everything that is put out on the world stage is designed to capture, not only to capture our attention and to hold it, but to perverse it. Okay? Now, why is porn also part of it? It is because it messes with the dopamine in our brain. And I'm not a doctor. I'm going to do my best to explain the importance of dopamine. Dopamine is actually, in my understanding of it, responsible for the reward sensation that we experience when something big or notable happens. So, for example, one would experience a large dopamine hit, if you will, running a marathon, successfully completing a marathon. Being in a chess tournament and coming in first place. Winning a gold medal or any medal at the Olympics. So these are really, really big things that would release a big dopamine hit. But when somebody actually engages in the activity of watching porn, it is releasing dopamine as well. But the dopamine release loses the potency over time, and that is what is drawing them in to these other fringe kind of sexual acts in the pornography itself. And when you mess with someone's dopamine production, they are again easy to control because they want their dopamine hit. And how are they going to get that dopamine hit? It is opening themselves up to exploring other things that will give them the dopamine hit that they want, but that the regular methods of receiving it are not actually doing it for them anymore. Now, what was also shown to me, I'm really just, here's the thing, there's a lot here. I'm laying the groundwork for all of the ways in which we have been mind controlled. And then I'm going to tie it up at the end with a nice little neat ribbon and bow. Now, another thing that was shown to me that was actually messing with our natural organic ability to think for ourselves is living in cities, living in big cities. This actually surprised me. And so there's a few things that actually come out of it when you're living in big cities. One of them is that you're being inundated with other people's energy. And I've spoken about this pretty much extensively in a lot of the earlier videos that I had done, which is that we all are producing energy. And when we go out and about, we are exposed to other people's energy. And we can then also become inundated with other people's energy if we don't know about the energetic component, and we are therefore not then cleansing our energetic bodies of all of these different energies that are around us. And if we don't do that, if we don't know to do it, what will actually happen is it can leave a person feeling extremely fatigued, tired, overwhelmed, mentally unclear, hazy, foggy, where you're just feeling not like yourself, where you're feeling out of sorts. That is one of the biggest things that can happen. And because we don't talk about this nearly enough, people don't know about it, they're not cleansing themselves. So we have this big movement of big explosion of all of these big cities and people moving into them for the so-called conveniences that come with it. And guys, I'm guilty of it too. I live in a big city. So I'm not like throwing shade at anybody that lives in a big city. I live in one of the biggest cities in the United States. So I get it. I'm right there with you. But that's why we need to talk about these things, to normalize it and to normalize the energetic exposure that we experience so that we can cleanse our energy of it. Now, what also does moving into big cities do is it is causing us to be disconnected from nature. And nature is one of the greatest resets of an energetic imbalance. Now, what is also around us in the big cities is not just big high-rise buildings, not just big superhighways, not just the inundation of other people's energies, it's also power lines and Wi-Fi towers. And what are Wi-Fi towers? That is designed specifically, it is sold to us as a convenience, right? But the true purpose and intention behind Wi-Fi is actually to keep us in a lower vibration. That is the true meaning and purpose behind Wi-Fi. And thus keeping us in a low vibration and easy to control. Now, since we started to kind of talk about nature and it being the great like energetic reset, I'm also going to say that what was shown to me is the way in which Amish people live. And why is it notable? First of all, they don't have TVs. They don't have radios. They don't have cars. They get around on horse and buggy or they walk. So one could say they are living frozen in time, but it's more than that. They also live in tight-knit communities. They do everything for themselves. So what does that actually do? Is their brain is actually naturally releasing dopamine because they have the joy and satisfaction in taking care of themselves and relying on themselves, and therefore are not outsourcing the dopamine production in their brain to any external environmental source. They also live a simple life with a strong connection to God. And their simplicity, the simple way in which they live, their simple lives, actually makes them impossible to control with MK Ultra mind control because they are truly happy with what they have. They are completely living off of their land, living in nature, in small, tight-knit communities. They are self-reliant, doing everything for themselves. And they also do something that's very, very interesting, and I don't remember what it's called. It has like a very, very interesting name. But when the Amish children come of age, they are actually, Rumstein, I don't know. Or I think that's maybe like a hard rock band. I don't even know. But they do this thing when the children are of age, where for 1 year's time, they are set out into the world. Go out into the world. Anything that you want to do, anything that you want to explore, anything that your mind can imagine, go and do it. And then at the conclusion of the 1-year period, you can decide if you want to stay out in the world or if you want to come back into the community. And I think it's like an insanely high rate, like 99% of all of the children, once they come of age and at the completion of their year, they come back into the community. Because they have had the experience of seeing, and not just seeing with their own eyes, it's different than this like intellectual understanding of something, but it's the experiential understanding of something, how disconnected, chaotic, and unhealthy life can actually be when you are living in big cities, disconnected from your community, and outsourcing your sense of satisfaction to external sources. So I thought that was really, really interesting and really notable. Now, am I suggesting that we all live like the Amish? No. If that resonates, you do you, boo. I'm just sharing the information, right? And also here's the thing, like, if you want to think about it this way, to a certain extent, the conveniences that we have living in big cities, the conveniences that we have with things like Amazon and Prime Delivery, they have made our lives easier. But there's always a trade-off, and the trade-off is we are now controlled by the things that were sold to us as a convenience. Are they convenient? Yes. Are we also owned by them to a certain extent? Also yes. I'm gonna be like really candid. How many times have I been on a website and they wanted to, like, shipping was 7 to 10 days, and I was like, what is this? 7 to 10 days, and they want to charge me for shit. Like, it's so antiquated because we have been conditioned, or we have another way of saying it, has been mind controlled by Amazon and by Prime. It's free. I pay for membership, but it's free, and I get it a day or two later. What am I waiting 2 weeks to get a package for? Why are they charging me $15? Like, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Just putting that there. For our own sense of reflection. No judgment, guys. I'm guilty of it too, okay? Now, as I was saying at the beginning, that Marilyn Monroe was the first test case in Hollywood by which they had the proof of concept. That fear is the most potent way that you can restructure somebody's brain. You can bypass their own internal dialogue, if you will, with themselves. So the fear is the tool, to go back to this wide open expanse of land that I had shared before. Fear is the tools that they use to come in and to till the land and to cut down the trees and to move all the dirt. That is what the fear acts as. What is the mind control then? The MK Ultra mind control is the pouring of the concrete into the foundation. It's laying the groundwork of what they are going to then implant in the person's mind, and that the implantation of the thoughts in the mind is the landscape artist coming in and now recreating the natural components that were there before everything had been dug up and torn out. So what they had done with Marilyn Monroe was discovering that if you can find what somebody is afraid of and then expose them to that, that was where you could hijack their mind. That's what they started doing with the celebrities, to hijack their mind. So it was, Marilyn, we understand that you're afraid you're going to end up like your mom. We're going to take you to doctor's offices to make sure that everything is on the up and up. And what was happening in the doctor's offices? They were actually scrambling her brain, like scrambled eggs. And so that was the first proof of concept. But then they realized, just like they could experiment on a starlet to make a starlet more compliant, why not do that to the entire population as well? Okay. And how did they first start to do this? Maybe this is not the first origin point, but this was shown to me as one of the most notable ones, with kids. Not just with kids. With kids and, anyone want to guess? Disney movies. And what they now call I think they call it Disney Classic. So what are the Disney Classic films? Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, The Little Mermaid, Sleeping Beauty, that's the one where she eats the apple, yes. No, Sleeping Beauty is the one with the fairy godmothers, okay. What's the one where she eats the apple? I forget. I'm going to discuss all of these though, because they're all so incredibly notable. So, first and foremost, with kids, it's very, very easy to actually exploit a child's fear. Because what are children afraid of? They have a very, very small world around them, and they're most afraid of losing one or both of their parents. So what did they start to do with Disney movies? Is they started to tell stories where one or both of the parents are dead. And I'm going to go through a list. The first one that came to mind, I'm still scarred to this day from watching this movie. I cannot bring myself to watch it. Bambi. Who else is with me? You watched Bambi as a kid and you are scarred to this day because of it. I saw Bambi one time and I will never watch it again. Okay, so Bambi's mom was killed. What are some other examples? The Lion King, where Mufasa, the evil brother, Scar, the evil brother, kills Mufasa, Simba's father. Frozen, both of the parents are killed in an accident. These are supposed to be children's fairy tales. Why is there death in children's fairy tales? Okay, so that's one thing that we're doing. Now, once we have laid the groundwork in exploiting a child's natural fear, which is to lose a parent, to never see their parent again, because they're dead. Now what do? You have tilled the soil, you have tilled the land. What are you now going to imprint in their mind? What kind of messages are you going to imprint in their mind? So, the one where Snow White, that's it, thank you. Okay, Snow White. What is the message there? You have the evil fairy, she's not a fairy godmother, the evil witch, right? What is the message there? Who is the fairest of them all? It's shallow. Who is the prettiest? Oh, I'm not the prettiest there is? I must now poison the prettiest person that there is in the world. It's complete shallow concepts. What are some other ones? Like in Sleeping Beauty, the princess pricks her finger and goes into a deep sleep. And what is the only thing that can save her is being kissed by a prince. It's again the outsourcing of our own internal autonomy and our own internal happiness. It is sending this message to little girls that they are powerless unless they have a man to come into their life. What are some other examples? And yes, I do actually know that some of these are fairy tales that were written, but I want you not to focus on that. I mean, you can focus on that fact if you want to. It's just to say that of all the things that Disney can create movies about, why are these the movies that they're creating? Really? That a little girl is helpless unless she is saved by a handsome prince? And also look at it this way. The handsome princes are always so one-dimensional. They're always so shallow. So not only are we going to be needing to be saved by men, but we need to be saved by one-dimensional shallow men that all they are pretty faces. How is that healthy? Okay, but I digress. What's another example? Ariel in The Little Mermaid, where she is willing to literally give up her voice to win a man. And what are some of the songs in that movie? Sung by Ursula. The importance of body language. And who cares if you can't talk? You still have your pretty face. These are the messages that are being implanted into an entire generation of young women's minds. It doesn't matter what you say, it matters that you are pretty. So basically, keep your mouth shut and just be pretty. Okay. So what this was done was with the intention of raising a generation of little girls that grow up to be entitled, shallow, vapid, out of touch with themselves, and thinking that they need to be saved by a man. Okay, so that's what they did with little kids. Now, the playbook of what they had done with the celebrities was what they have actually been doing to us as well. You want to know what they do to celebs? It's what they've been doing to us. I'm going to explain. So again, like I said, Marilyn Monroe was the first test case, proof of concept, great. Then what they started to do is this entire generation of all of the other celebrities that came thereafter, where they wanted to own their minds and allow them or turn them into being the perfect foot soldier for whatever it is that the cabal wanted to do. Whatever messages you want to do. And what are some of those things? Miley Cyrus is a great example, not just her, it's, any number of celebrities you want to talk about, where they will put forth on the world stage a very, very young, innocent, and nubile singer. So Miley Cyrus, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. I'm sure there's tons more that I can't think of right now. But you put them forth on the stage as being young and innocent and nubile, and then you have an entire generation of little girls growing up wanting to be like Hannah Montana. And what do they then do to Hannah Montana? They rebrand her. Now she's not sweet, innocent Hannah Montana. Now she's Miley Cyrus, who is standing on the stage at the Video Music Awards, barely dressed, gyrating against singers, sticking her tongue out, and acting completely disconnected from the way in which her image had first been crafted. Now, here's the thing. We could say, yes, sure, maybe this is also just the natural progression of these singers wanting to find themselves, of wanting to break free, of wanting to express themselves. Is it really all of them, though? Look at what happened to Christina Aguilera. So, sweet, innocent, when she won her Grammy for the Best New Artist, she was wearing that cute little dress with like the butterflies, right? She looks so sweet and innocent. What happened to her a few years later? She's wearing assless chaps, gyrating in her music videos. It's not a coincidence. This has all been intentional to corrupt the minds of the new, younger generation always coming in. There's always going to be a corruption of them through popular culture, right? So what popular culture is, either the movies, it's going to be the singers, it's going to be the Disney movies, but it's always designed with the corruption of whoever it is that is on the world stage. And it is not a coincidence that this is happening, or it's a better way of saying it is, it's not a coincidence that the most popular young nubile it girl of the moment are always the ones that go through this complete metamorphosis and transformation of their image into something completely unholy and otherwise than the way that they first started out. And how do they guarantee that these young starlets are going to follow the script, right? Do we really know if Christina Aguilera wanted to do that? Do we really know if Miley Cyrus wanted to do that? How do they guarantee that they can use these young girls as the pawns and as the puppets through the mind control of them? you want to assure that you're going to corrupt an entire generation of people. You really want to make sure, you really want your insurance policy. The insurance policy is the MK Ultra, the bypassing of these people's own internal guidance system, that they will then be in compliance and they will turn into these other versions of themselves, so that way it can then corrupt an entire generation. So you want to know how we've been mind controlled. These are some of the examples of how it's been implemented. And it is in concert, it is in conjunction with anything that you see playing out on the world stage. And yes, again, I'm going to very intentionally use the terminology, the world stage. Anything that is put forth has some sort of purpose. It was either done by the cabal, or now it is being done by the white hats to expose a lot of the things that the cabal has done. So all of this is done to slowly have people lose touch with their own internal guidance system through the inundation of repeated messages over and over again. Right? So what's the repeated message if you're a kid? That the world is unsafe because you could lose one or both of your parents at any single time. That for a girl, it's more important to, even if she can't speak, to be pretty. For boys, it's that you can't speak up because the princes in all of these movies are very, very vapid and one-dimensional. That it's not safe to be anything other than that. Because look at even the message that was in The Lion King. Simba would rather run away than confront his uncle, because it was his uncle had actually killed his father, not him. So it's this messaging of the denial of bravery. It's a messaging of a denial of stepping forth and becoming a stronger version of yourself. And I think there's probably a lot more examples as well, but those were like the really, really notable ones that were shown to me. And yes, we can say that some of them are getting better. Like Moana was a great example of a girl that is more of a hero in her own right. They're getting better, but are we completely there yet? Another one that just came to mind actually is Encanto. And this was a great one. But this was also saying, like, if you're not like everybody else, then you're not special. Because what's the message in that movie? There's one girl in a family, and she doesn't have magic like the rest of her siblings. And even though ultimately in the end of the movie there is a redemption, what is the foundation that they're laying? That she is not special because she's not like everybody else. So is that then not also priming people to believe, I have to be like everybody else if I want to be special? I have to be like everybody else if I want to fit in? Just some food for thought there. Now, okay, so what they had done with the starlets is the MK Ultra mind control to program them to have their own devolution on the world stage in terms of their nature and character. And there's a lot of symbolism there as well. And there's some accounts I used to follow on Instagram, but I don't think I can mention them, and I don't think I can link them down below. But there were some really, really great accounts that actually had shown the symbolism with all of the young stars. And it's not just the hand gestures that they had done. We all, I think, are pretty savvy to the hand gestures. But there's a couple of like really notable things that was kind of like showing the world, or those that knew about this, was showing where they were up to in their actual mind control process. So one of them is the pink hair. One of them is the beta sex kitten, where they will have them dress up in like leopard print whatevers. And there's all of this symbolism. I'm not going to link them. I'm not going to say them. If you want to email me, I can share some of them with you, and you can go back. You can actually look at them, okay? Or you can just, you guys are really resourceful. I'm sure you can find it. But it's out there. Like, there are plenty of accounts that have done a lot of the work in uncovering with all of the celebrities in pop culture, you can actually see like the steps in how they are changing. And I don't remember what they are, but again, pink hair is one of them, like the beta sex kitten. The symbolism is all there, and they all do it. All the celebrities do it. So again, one is maybe a coincidence. All of them? Okay. So the decline here, exactly what's been done to celebrities has played out in pop culture as a whole. And the decline in TV from the wholesome to the perverse is a reflection of society. Because it's happening in tandem, it's happening hand in hand. Where it's a reflection of society, it's happened in tandem because we have been mind controlled by it, and to perceive it and to believe it to be a real and true depiction of the real world. Now, here are some other places that we may have seen this trying to put forth a false idea onto the world stage. Is go back a couple of years to the summer where there was the rioting after the death of George Floyd. And we were being told that, first of all, and I'm going to try to tread lightly here, right? Like, it's a touchy subject. I want to tread lightly. But we were basically being told that the greatest risk to an African-American man's life was the police. But then if you actually look at the statistics, it's like, actually, no, not so much. But we were also being fed this idea that people are so naturally racist in our genes, and it has something to do with the melanin production in our skin, right? So if you're white, you're a natural racist, and if you're an African American, if you're black, you're a natural victim. Let's just slow down here. What are some other things in the last few years where we have seen these kind of like false messaging being put out? Which is when they talk about what happened on January 6th. And they're saying it was the second, what is the terminology they use? Like second to September 11th, and I think one other thing, they're saying it was like the most horrendous day in all of like modern history. It was like the worst attack on never mind. Gotta slow down. You know, my videos are like 98% channeled and like 2% opinion. I try to keep it at like that healthy balance. I kind of feel like in this video, I'm creeping past the 2% of personal opinion. So I'm gonna just, you guys know where I'm going with this, okay? I mean, you're not only savvy, you're also very, very awake and very, very aware. I don't have to spoon feed anybody here. Okay, so here's the thing. It's where, imagine you're watching a movie and you think the movie is real life, but you're not understanding that it's actually paid actors that are being paid to read lines that were written by somebody else and tell a story. That's kind of how everything has played out in the world stage, without the understanding that anything, again, that is playing out in the world stage is scripted. It is scripted by someone or many different someones that want to weave, if you will, this kind of idea of what the world is like, and that is being reflected back to us through popular culture. It's being reflected back to us through movies, through music, through what is being written about in the newspapers. So it's this inundation of this information designed to keep our minds occupied on what we are being told, instead of taking back the autonomy that we have and saying, wait a minute, I'm going out into the real world, and my real world doesn't actually match what's being shown to me on TV. My real world doesn't match what's actually being reported in newspapers. My real world doesn't match anything that is being reflected to me on TV. So it is giving people the choice then, if they want to continue to give their sense of autonomy up and to continue to believe that the movie that they are watching, to believe that it is real, instead of slowing down and being like, this actually doesn't match, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to turn the news off, I'm going to stop reading the newspaper, and I'm going to actually take back the power and control that I have over my own sense of agency. And another thing that was being shown to me is that when a person would, let's say, for example, make the decision to, let me say it differently. They could make the decision, but another way of saying it is they have been so completely hijacked and so completely mind controlled that they actually believe everything that they see, and they believe that the world is this fake, phony characters, and everything that they're seeing on TV, that they believe it to be true. So that is when they are completely mind controlled, when whatever they see, they actually believe. They have completely given over their sense of autonomy and agency. So at this point, I actually asked my guides, is TV a reflection of society, or is society a reflection of TV? What came first, the chicken or the egg? And what was told to me is that it actually doesn't matter, because we are now not everybody, right? But anybody that is still buying into it is a vibrational match with it. So it is through their consent in continuing to watch these things. And a great example is anyone that's going to continue to watch like the Kardashians or like the Real Housewives. Again, no judgment if you are doing it. It's just to say that by continuing to watch these things, you are giving your consent to the proliferation of this kind of information being put out onto the world stage, and it is because you are an energetic match to it, okay? Now, how do we end it? We end it by turning off the TV. That's one way. Because here's the thing, it is all programming anyway. What do they call TV shows? Programs. What do they call TV? Television. Television, okay? So how do you end the programming? How do you end the telling of the vision? The spell casting, if you will, by turning the TV off. Or if you don't want to turn the TV off, if it's like your guilty pleasure, I have a lot of friends that actually like enjoy watching, they're very awake, they're very aware. They still enjoy watching like the Real Housewives and things like that. It's like their guilty pleasure, but they watch it knowing that it's all completely scripted and it's fake and it's complete bogus. So it's more like tongue-in-cheek, like they're watching it with the understanding this is such complete bullshit, but whatever, it's like mindless. And with all the chaos going on in the world right now, they want mindless. So again, you do you, boo. If that's you, no judgment here. We accept everybody here. We are like the Statue of Liberty of any viewer. Give me your tired, give me your weak, give me your poor, give me your awake, give me your disillusioned, give me your knowing that something is not right but not knowing what it is. We accept everybody here. Come on over. So again, what is television? We will tell you what to see and what to believe. Tell a vision. We are creating a vision for you. This is what the world is really like. You turn the TV off, you go into your world, and you're like, actually no, they're incongruent with one another. Then the next thing that came with it, this is so interesting. Someone had actually asked my opinion on Netflix, and Netflix actually came in the channeling of the information here, which is as follow. So the continuation of the television, which is we will tell you what to see and what to believe. Then it became we will tell you when to watch what you want to watch. And then it became the next iteration of that, just like herding us all into bigger cities with the so-called convenience of modern day life, which was really done to actually hijack us. What then became Netflix is with this idea of a convenience, we will give you everything at once. You do not have to tune in week after week after week to see what's going to happen. Here's everything. We're going to give you the entire damn season all at once. And it was done with this idea of it being a modern day luxury and convenience, but it's actually a lie. Because now, not only are we monopolized by this so-called convenience, but here's the kicker, this is the best part. We pay to be owned. It's the biggest lie. Netflix, all of these other things are the biggest lie. We are paying for the conveniences that they offer. We are paying to Netflix and chill. We are paying to binge watch, but what are we actually doing? Giving ourselves up. We have given up our time. We have given up our pursuit to anything that is not of a three-dimensional nature. What could we be doing with that time? Any number of things. What are we doing? Netflixing and chilling. So that's my opinion on Netflix. And I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. I got dangerously close today to becoming overly opinionated. I try to be very, very neutral and really just bring you the channeled information. But for some reason, this one really got me riled up. So I'm back to my usual self. All future videos will again be 98% channeled, 2% opinion, maybe a little bit of snark mixed in as well. So this was kind of a long one. I would love to hear your guys' feedback on how you think this resonates with you and if it resonated with you. And again, as always, if it hasn't, take what resonates and leave the rest behind. And until next time, stay in the high vibration.